The steady metallic click of my cleaning rod was the only sound in the house until my phone detonated against the wooden table. I snatched the receiver instantly, expecting a routine cold call or a check-in from an old military buddy. Instead, a wall of pure agony tore through the speaker, making my heart slam against my ribs. It was my wife, Sarah, making a terrifying, primal noise that no human should ever hear. Through her hyperventilating gasps, she managed to scream 5 horrifying words that destroyed my quiet life in a single second. She choked out that our little girl was broken, her legs completely destroyed. The standard 40-minute drive to St. Jude Children's Hospital vanished into an 11-minute blur of burning rubber and blown intersections. I do not remember dodging traffic or speeding past red lights, only the white-knuckle grip I had on the steering wheel while my mind calculated the impossible. My 6-year-old daughter Chloe was my whole world, a little girl who spent every afternoon practicing ballet moves in the living room. Sarah kept screaming that her legs were gone, and that terrifying phrase bounced around my skull like a loose bullet. I slammed my truck into the curb right outside the emergency entrance and sprinted inside without even shutting off the engine. The automatic doors slid open and my heavy boots pounded across the slick tiles while nurses scattered out of my way. A security guard started to intercept me, but he took one look at my eyes and stepped back, recognizing the quiet fury of a soldier operating on pure instinct. I reached the main intake counter and brought my palm down hard on the desk, demanding to know where they took my daughter. The intake nurse paled, typing frantically into her system while trying to tell me I could not enter the trauma wing. I was already moving past her, following the distinct, sickening smell of hospital disinfectant, cold sweat, and raw panic hanging heavy in the hallway. I rounded the corner to the surgical waiting area and found Sarah huddled in a bright, plastic chair, her clothes soaked in dark blood that was not hers. When she looked up through swollen, bloodshot eyes, she collapsed into my chest, her body shivering violently as if she was freezing to death. I wrapped my arms around her tightly, instinctively scanning her for injuries while asking if Chloe was still breathing. Sarah sobbed uncontrollably, telling me our daughter was in emergency surgery while doctors tried to piece her shattered bones back together. She kept repeating that there were too many broken pieces for the medical team to fix. A tall surgeon in blood-stained green scrubs stepped out from behind double doors, his face lined with deep fatigue and grim news. I stepped in front of Sarah, telling the doctor to give me the facts straight without trying to soften the blow. He took a long breath, explaining that Chloe's condition was critical, with both shin bones completely shattered and her right thigh bone snapped in half. He told us they had counted 9 distinct fractures throughout her lower body. Hearing that number made the room spin around me, because those were not injuries a 6-year-old sustained from falling off a couch. The surgeon adjusted his clipboard and leaned closer, his expression darkening as he dropped his voice to a serious tone. He told us these catastrophic injuries were entirely inconsistent with an accidental tumble, pointing out that severe spiral fractures only happen when a limb is forcefully twisted. The air rushed out of my lungs, replaced by a freezing realization that turned my grief into something far more dangerous. The doctor added that hospital protocol required an immediate police report because the marks clearly pointed to a brutal assault. In an instant, my heartbreak transformed into a cold, lethal focus I had not felt since serving overseas. I turned slowly toward Sarah and asked, who was supervising our daughter, my voice dropping into a deadly whisper that frightened her. She winced, pointing nervously toward the far corner of the room where her older brother Travis was lounging across to waiting chairs. Travis was a massive, lazy man who had spent his entire adult life drinking beer and blaming everyone else for his endless failures. He was sitting there in a stained shirt, casually eating a sandwich and scrolling through social media while my daughter was having steel pins drilled into her legs. He looked completely bored, occasionally checking his phone without a single care in the world. A dark, familiar shadow settled over my mind, the exact same instinct that used to take over when tracking targets during my deployment days. I walked toward Travis with completely silent footsteps, stopping directly over him so my shadow blocked the harsh overhead lights. He swallowed his food and glanced up with lazy, irritated eyes, asking why it took me so long to get there so they could finally leave. I stared down at his hands and immediately caught a faint smear of dried blood across his knuckles. When I demanded to know what happened, he casually shrugged, saying the kid was clumsy and fell down the stairs. Travis tossed his garbage onto the floor near my boot and let out a sharp chuckle, remarking that children have flexible bones and always bounce back. He then had the nerve to ask me for $20, complaining that the vending machine took his money without dropping a drink. I looked at the blood on his skin, then back to the doctor words about limbs being twisted with immense physical force. Falling down stairs causes bruises and simple breaks, but it never causes spiral fractures. Travis was not worried or upset because he genuinely believed he was completely untouchable, smiling at me like he was daring me to react. I leaned down until my face was inches from his, smelling the stale onions on his breath, while my heart beat with complete, icy precision. Instead of letting rage control me, I gathered untraceable evidence of his cruelty and his corrupt police connections, handing it directly to federal authorities. Within 48 hours, state troopers handcuffed Travis right in front of his house, stripping away his fake power forever. Standing beside Chloe's bed as she slowly began to heal, I realized that true strength is not about reckless violence, but using absolute, unwavering focus to deliver justice and shield those you love.